Hello to you all. I'm glad you're here. I think I have an interesting video for you. Some of you were asking about collecting rifles, and from my main channel and from other Patreon videos that I've made, you know that there is a lot of interest in Mauser rifles, even though they're mostly quite old. Although you can buy a brand new Mauser 98 made in Yugoslavia. I think they're called Zastava. Anyhow, that's not the subject of today's video. I'll first off draw your attention to this rifle. This is a Brazilian Mauser, and some of you wrote me wondering, you know, when do you know you've hit something really special in gun collecting? And this is a Brazilian Mauser model 1908 in just about mint condition. There's some minor speckling on the bolt handle and on the bolt body. The crest on the receiver, which is typical of Mausers ordered by different countries. This is the Brazilian crest. It's untouched. It may look like this needs bluing. Quite a few countries ordered their Mausers from Mauser with no bluing. Brazil, Argentina, and some others. This was made in Berlin. I'll flip it around in a little while. So everything that you would want in a Mauser, an original one, is here. The stock is near perfect. The bottom metal is fine. I didn't polish it or anything for filming. It's just the way I bought it. And I'll turn it around. You'll be able to see there's even a muzzle cap that just turns on and off. That was to prevent debris or what have you from entering the muzzle. The barrel bands are perfect. The bluing's perfect. And the bore is flat new. So, you know, you could look what something like this is worth. They're definitely not going down in value anytime soon, and you simply don't come across this kind of firearm very often. In fact, I don't remember ever buying one this perfect. It even has the original factory target, which I should have probably shared with you, that they delivered from the factory to show the accuracy, which is actually excellent accuracy. So I thought I'd show you that Brazilian Mauser, but that's not actually what the video is about. The video is, well, it's about a few things, and I'll just reassemble this, sort of, and you'll see. I mean, at first blush, if I didn't say they were different, most people would say, well, maybe the bolt handle is a little different, the cocking piece is different. You can see this little piece, that's the cocking piece, that looks a little bit like a Springfield. But essentially, I think, like I said, at first blush it kind of looks like maybe the same gun, but they're entirely different. This one is not in as great condition. This stock is not walnut. It's actually not too far off from oak. This is a Mexican Mauser. I was looking for one of these for a long time, and this arrived in the mail, and at first I thought that it was just a disaster. You can see the stock is cracked here. A lot of times when a stock isn't made out of walnut or beech, they crack. Just the characteristics of the wood. This is close to oak, and I made an oak gun stock years ago. Anyhow, I thought I'd leave it. I could have fixed this so you would never know it's there, but I thought in case some of you decide to, you know, go into this stuff, I'll take the action. I'll show you all the parts in a few minutes, but this is quite easily repaired. There's a chip here which looks bad, but it's actually convenient. You see where this stock has fractured? You don't want to take it apart anymore. You don't want to break it. Some people break them completely to fix them. That's the wrong approach, I think, or in my experience it is. So what I'm going to probably do is sneak in through this chip, drill a couple of 1/8 inch holes down through the break. There seems to be some kind of epoxy in here that somebody tucked in when the fracture was more open. So I'm just going to run some maybe brass or steel rods. Sometimes they use fiberglass. You tap them in below the surface, and then once that's all dry and hard and you're comfortable that there's no give in the stock, not that there's any give right now, but you can see something's been going on in here, and there's not much recoil. These are heavy rifles, so it's fine. Anyway, after we tap in the rods, we'll cap this, not to deceive anybody. It'll be perfectly strong, and of course you mentioned that there was a problem at the wrist, which will be obvious to anyone who looks. And then that'll be fine. And actually it seems quite strong the way it is, but I thought I'd just mention that to you. I often sneak in brass rods, or some people use, like I said, steel. Some people even use drill bits or graphite or fiberglass. Doesn't matter. Anyway, it'll all be repaired. That doesn't mean it won't break again. It could break again, but it won't break here. It won't be weaker here. It'll be stronger here. So anyhow, this rifle arrives, and it wasn't as clean as it is now. I have to say it was cheap. So I thought it's going to be a bargain. This looked to me suspicious. This bolt handle. Most Mausers are straight, like the Brazilian. But I wanted the Mexican Mauser, and now I'll tell you how it's different. So I mean, it's got the different cocking piece. This turns out to be factory original. And then have a look at the receiver ring. Like at first you think they're identical. They're actually quite different. The receiver ring on the Mexican Mauser is very small. This is actually called a large ring Mauser. This is called a small ring Mauser. There weren't that many small ring Mausers made. And you know, back when these guns came into the public hands, the custom gunsmiths, they liked these small ring Mausers because you can make wonderful light rifles with them. So very few of them remain in military condition. This one does. Now here's the cool part. The rifle was sold to me as a 7x57, and it arrived, and I could tell when I looked at the muzzle that it wasn't a 7x57 because the hole in the barrel was the bore was too big. In fact, I could switch these around. Maybe I'll do that. So this is a 7x57. Sometimes these muzzle caps can be tough, but not this one. That's a 7x57. And then this was supposed to be a 7x57. And of course, you know right away, it's not. So then, of course, the question is it an 8x57? Or what is it? But before I did anything like with a chamber casting, you can cast a chamber, meaning you take out the bolt and then you block the bore and you pour a chamber casting material into the chamber. It's a lot like a type of lead or other material. Somebody told me they used sulfur or something like that years ago. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what it's called. To me, it's like a soft solder, and you pour it into the chamber and then pull it out, and you can see the shape of the chamber. So anyway, it was kind of neat. This is a 30-06, and so I thought, well, maybe somebody took a Mexican Mauser and then re-barreled it in 30-06, and then I started looking at this receiver ring. This is going to be tricky for you to see, but this crest is too short. There's supposed to be a date right here where my pencil is. It should say 1936 or 1950 something. It should say something, but it's missing steel. So somebody has come in here and re-radiused this. So the minute I saw this re-radiusing, that this receiver ring was too short, well, a couple of thoughts. First off, is it safe? And then secondly, is it just somebody working in their garage, or is it an original rifle? So then it's hard to tell from the re-radiusing. The headspace was good. Chambers 30-06. That was consistent with everything else I could see. The 1936 Mexican Mauser was 7x57, like the Brazilian. Later on, they switched to 30-06 in another version of their Mauser military rifles. Anyhow, I'll save you all the intrigue. This is an original Mexican Mauser. I talked to a guy who knows these Mexican Mausers, and this was an arsenal conversion. It wasn't done in a garage. And you know that it isn't a garage conversion because the barrel is an Arsenal 30-06. It has the correct front sight, the correct front sight hood, the profiles and steps. See, the military barrels have steps in them. They're not a smooth angle like sporting rifles. There are steps. And then the rear sight is fitted. It's in the correct place. The bore is near mint. And effectively, what my collector expert tells me is this was a 1936 small ring Mexican Mauser in 7x57, which may never have made it into the field or into the rack in 7x57. They might have had the actions around and converted them to 30-06. In order to get the longer 30-06 cartridge to work in this action, they had to open it up. So they opened it up at the front. Now, I invite you Mauser experts to correct me, but that's what I've been able to put together so far. And for those of you that were asking me a lot of questions about collecting and how you make money in collecting and, you know, why is it interesting? Well, this would be a perfect example. It's kind of like an investigation. So as far as I know, this is an original small ring Mexican Mauser, probably in 1936, that was Arsenal converted to 30-06 instead of 7x57. And there's more than enough meat left in the receiver to handle the 30-06 round. There's no safety concern. Other than that, I'll just take the bolt out. There's the bolt. You see that white paint that I put on there? That's just white out. That's the Mexican Mauser. You know, and so you look at the bolt and see what's what. And I'll take out the Brazilian Mauser as well for you. So you can see, you know, the obvious origin. This is a little bit more user-friendly, the straight military Mauser. Sometimes if you're using the rifle in the field, it's a little cumbersome. The location of different parts, you'll notice, is slightly different. This is the safety lug. So even if these lugs sheared off, which I've never seen, and no one I know has ever seen in a Mauser, even if these lugs sheared off, the bolt is going to be caught by the safety lug. And then if something happened with the safety lug, the bolt handle base would catch it. This is Mexican Mauser, this is the Brazilian Mauser, and this is an FN. I was just working on something else, so I had it on the table. Actually, I was trying to see if the FN would fit the Mexican. I knew it wouldn't, but I wanted to see tolerances and things like that, just to learn. So anyhow, I don't need to do anything except here a little bit of white paint was removed. I'm not sure that this bolt matches that action, and quite often when the Arsenals reworked an action, they used a different bolt. So, but it's minimal, like I'm talking thousandths of an inch, which is probably my own standards. Safety works, everything else is good. And then the other components, I won't be doing much here. You don't want to fiddle around with an original military Mauser, but you can see how superb the machining is. I can't tell you the feeling of the action, but it is glass hard. It's completely slick. It's not a Tikka T3 because there's a lot more to this action. It's not just a pipe with a tube in it. There's a controlled round feed extractor. There are a whole bunch of other things going on that benefit the rifle and the shooter, but just a beautiful action. This is gas escape port, and after the video you can punch in Mexican Mausers. There are pictures all over the web. This is the recoil lug, so that's where recoil is transferred to the stock. That fits in here in this component. The inletting isn't any kind of custom inletting, but it doesn't have to be. It's a military rifle. Hard for me to tell whether it's the original military stock. I would think it probably is. I don't know why it wouldn't be. It looks like everything's about, it's drop-in. It's a little high here, So that could mean something. But when you cinch things down with screws and so forth. Also, there might be something out of alignment because of that split. Anyhow, I thought I'd share this with you. This is kind of what I go through or into with different collectible guns. Super lucky to get that Brazilian Mauser. I have an Argentinian Mauser that's near to this one, but I don't have the factory target or anything like that. Just wonderfully fit and finished. And you know, as usual, if you went to produce even this military grade firearm, well, you'd be paying, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 with all these different parts, of course, which you wouldn't need because it's a military rifle. But that's it. So I'm excited about this Mexican Mauser. I'll get it back together. I'll fix this so that it's solid and, for all practical purposes, more or less invisible. I like the original stock. All the other components are here. The butt plate, I took them out before filming. Everything here is one piece bottom metal. These springs never fail. The follower is one piece steel. Barrel bands, action screws, and even they're in great shape for a military gun. Nobody bow tied them, you know, where you turn the screw and then the screwdriver and you make kind of a bow tie shape. Wood is all good except for that crack at the wrist, which is, like I said, no big deal. So I'll put that all back together and it'll join my Mauser collection, and not easy to find. I'm sure that it's quite safe. I might, you know, take a few rounds, some lighter loads, but I probably don't even need to do that. I'll do the polishing on the bolt. That's easy. I might put it in a new extractor. This one is slightly worn, but you know, most of the time with these Mausers, you think it's no good or maybe could be better, and then you take it to the range and they're just excellent. They just seem to never stop working. So I hope that's beneficial for you to watch, and I'll have some more of these videos on Mausers. And on the next video we'll move to something else. And in closing, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that you're on Patreon. These main channel videos and the Patreon videos are really enjoyable for me to make. Nevertheless, they take time and planning and so forth. So it's nice to have some people kind of acknowledge that what you're doing is worthwhile. So thanks for being here, and I hope that you're getting something out of watching these Patreon videos. And we'll see you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.